Coming, everyone. I was wondering whether it was going to be a very small crowd, and mate, this is a bit like when stand-up, you do your first stand-up comedy, you just get a few people show up, but I hope you'll be enthusiastic, and I'm going to roll out a challenge here, since the name of the conference is about challenge, and it's about how green building principles and Green Star in particular rolls out beyond the CBDs of our cities. Now, that should work. Okay, so firstly, it's all good news that CBDs, big success story for Green Star. I think we all know that. It's the only game in town in some of our CBDs. Melbourne and Sydney and many other cities can't build unless it's a Green Star compliant building, which is terrific. And it's mandatory, as I said, Melbourne Docklands and so forth, many places like that. And you could also say that in those settings, a culture of green building has developed. There's now lots and lots of professionals and builders and property developers that are now quite experienced with Green Star and quite experienced in how to apply it and the design issues. And there's not the debates about what you do anymore in those areas. And most of that's happened in the last 5 years. And I think that's pretty bloody amazing. I just want to before I get into critiquing things, I just want to say I think it's bloody amazing how far we've come in a very short time. So I'll have some statistics to look at, and this is straight from the Green Building Council. And the statistics in this little presentation are actually very rubbery. This is not rigorous. It's just to give you an overall impression. So, so I'm relying on the Green Building Council website to actually be quite accurate. But you can see we've got 558 certified projects and 498 registered projects on the most current website. There may be more. That's just over 1,000 buildings that are either certified or in the process, which is terrific. And by year, we can see that most of that's all happened since about 2009. In the year that I got my Green Star accredited professional status in 2004, there was one certified. And now, we're on an exponential growth, which again, that's fantastic. When we look at the breakdown by state, we can see that there's quite a lot of activity happening in Queensland, and about even with New South Wales, but Victoria seems to be the epicentre of a lot of the Green Star efforts, and a bit less elsewhere. And very similar when we look at registered projects. New South Wales is a little bit pulled ahead of Queensland in terms of registered projects. It's a question of how many of those registered projects convert to certified projects, but stuff's happening, which is really great. So the point I'm trying to make is that if those are the environments that you work in the CBDs, it's pretty much easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the battles have been won, the green battles. My experience, because I'm based in a regional area and I work in Sydney and I work in regional areas, is it's a completely different story. And I want to look at the suburban and regional context, because my colleagues at our display stand, Application Solutions, also work in the suburban environment. So we'll have a look at the map first. So when we look at the Green Building Council's map, we see there's, by just the dots on the map, there's a spread of projects. And there's a lot of density on that strip from Melbourne up to southeast Queensland. Again, it looks terrific. But what the map doesn't tell you the statistics about particularly the regional areas. So out of the 1,056 buildings, 75% are CBD certified and 87% are CBD registered. So they're very big numbers for what's happening in the CBDs. So when you go out of the CBDs, and I'm talking just the suburban areas and then the regions, there's only a total of 227 projects, which is only 21% of all the total certified and registered projects. So there's a big drop-off in numbers. Some of these, the methodology of creating these numbers can be pulled apart. So just to give an idea. If we look at just in the regions, 25 certified and 29 registered, that's 4 and 6% respectively. So that's a very, very small number of buildings, even though when you look at the map, it looks like there's a good spread around Australia. And we can also look at the CBDs of the regional areas. So if we looked at Newcastle, there's 3 certified buildings, 3 in Wollongong and 3 in Albury, and the rest are just registered. Now there's obviously a lot more in the suburbs. So 21% of certified, suburban, 21% of all the Green Star projects certified are in the suburban areas. And I've used a very loose definition for suburbia, just basically got down to how easy it was to manipulate the map on the Green Star website. So it's a little bit fuzzy where I drew the lines. But what's that saying is that while we've got a lot of success in the CBDs in the last 5 years, a different story in the regions. That picture, for example, is a building sort of on the campus where I have my office in Coffs Harbour, and it's a green building, but it hasn't been through any kind of certification process. The decision was made not to bother. So we could say that the diffusion of Green Star principles into the suburbs is modest. In the regional areas, it's very slow. And most of the buildings in the regional areas tend to be TAFE and university campuses. There's not a lot of certified offices. So what that means is that the private commercial industry is not embracing green building principles or Green Star. So we could say that's almost non-existent. Now, the challenge is that if the Green Building Council has zero interest in this, then there is no problem. But I'm assuming that they actually do care. So if the Green Building Council wants to diffuse green building principles and the Green Star system into the frontier areas, as I call them, there are major obstacles.